Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm going to be talking about what I read this week. I had a fairly good reading week. January has sort of, well actually this isn't a week, this is since the start of January, so it's over a week now, and it's probably 2 weeks worth. January has started off a bit slow, but I seem to have got back into my momentum since we've been home from New Zealand. I feel like I've got back into my routine, back into my reading. It's really weird for me because most people read more when they're on holiday, and for me I read more when it's sort of back in normal routine and Matilda's at school and or preschool, and I have a bit more time in the evenings, and I tend to read more in a normal day than I would on a holiday. So now we're back, I'm getting back into it, so I want to talk to you about the books that I've read over the last few weeks. The first book I have in physical copy, but I listened to via the Audible app, and that is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I listened to this while I was running, and it was a bit creepy but really engaging, and I got through it very quickly. It's been very hyped. This was on my list for the Shelf Slam 2017, so this was number 1 off my list for Shelf Slam 2017, which if you don't know about, I will link the videos down below. But basically this month I need to try and read 12 books, and this is number 1 off that list, so yay me. And I really enjoyed this on Audible. It was narrated by Claire Corbett, India Fisher and Louise Brealey, and they did a really good job of doing the voices of the 3 female characters which are in this story. So it is written from 3 different perspectives. We get the perspective of our main character Rachel, who is an alcoholic. She sits on the train every day, and as she goes into town she passes the home of her and her ex-husband when they were together, and her ex-husband still lives there with his new wife and child. And she also passes a home that's in the same sort of cul-de-sac as where they lived, and she is slightly obsessed with the lives of the couple that live there. It's a seemingly perfect life. She imagines what their life is like in her head and what sort of things they do and what sort of people they are. And one day when the wife has gone missing, she implants herself into the investigation for various reasons, and the story sort of goes from there, and we're following what's happened to this woman and also sort of the spiraling of her life, Rachel's life, and the alcoholism and the effects that that's had on her memory and things that have happened. It was a good read. It was fast to get through. I just found it was fairly predictable, and I felt like it was a bit slow in parts. I felt like that some of the issues were laboured a little bit too much for me, and so although it was enjoyable, I didn't think it was wonderful and revolutionary like I think a lot of people were raving about this when it came out. And for me it didn't really hit that sort of hype that it got. It was an enjoyable read, but not one that I would necessarily push on people to read themselves. So I gave this one 3 stars. Next up was a book that was also on my list for Shelf Slam 2017. So yay me, number 2 down. And that is The Unseen World by Liz Moore. This has received quite a lot of hype in the past few months, and lots of people have been raving about this. I've seen it in quite a lot of top books of 2016 lists. This was a slower read for me. It took me a lot longer to read. I really enjoyed it. And I just thought it was very, very well written and a very interesting look into one woman's life. We're following the life of Ada, and it's split into multiple timelines. The first is 1980, where Ada is 12 years old, and she's the daughter of a computer scientist genius, David, and he's a single father, and they live together. And it's at this time that things start to go a little bit awry. David is diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. and Ada's world starts to fall apart and unravel, and all the things that she thought she knew about her life and her father have changed, and she just goes through this process of growing up in quite a difficult way. She's been homeschooled, and all of a sudden she has to go to school. The things she thought about David weren't true. She has to live with somebody else, and we flit between then and a more present day, where we're seeing where she's ended up and how these things have unraveled, and the clues that have led her to find out more about her father's life, which may or may not have been what she thought. I thought the writing with this was great. I really loved the story and the idea behind it, and I gave it 4 stars. And the only reason I couldn't give it more than that, I couldn't give it 5 stars, was it just lacked that emotional connection for me. I didn't get that emotion through the writing. It was quite a non-emotional story. I didn't feel with the emotions. I didn't feel overwhelmed by anything. It just, yeah, so it lacked that emotional resonance with me, but I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next book I picked up is Primates, which is by Jim Ottaviani and Maris Wicks. This is a graphic novel. It's quite cute in its artwork, and this is the story of 3 women. It's real life. It's telling their lives. It's Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey and Beirut Galdikas. These were 3 women that studied various apes and chimpanzees and orangutans, and they're scientists, and it's just about their stories, how they came to fall into what they did, what they stood for, what they discovered. The art was just what I like. It was quite simple, but it was very colourful, and I enjoyed it. It really got me intrigued to find out more about these women and their lives. I just was a little disappointed because I didn't find out as much as I would have hoped in this, and the writing felt a little bit stilted and disjointed. And I really think that each of these women could have had their own stories. They could have had a whole book dedicated to themselves. I felt like we just skimmed the surface, and I would have much preferred a more in-depth look into each of these. So I definitely will be finding out more about these in future, because each of these women were very interesting. And one thing I did really like was at the back there is a bibliography, and it gives you some really interesting places to look for more information on these, and where the writer and artist got their source material from. So I'm really excited to continue on this journey. But yeah, it was okay, just not great. I gave this one 3 stars. Next is book 3 off my Shelf Slam list. Yay! And that was The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Oh, The Vegetarian by Han Kang. I really wanted to like this. Everyone likes this. Oh, most people that I've watched or heard really like this. And I feel a bit silly because I just didn't get it. I thought the writing was really good, and it definitely evoked emotions with me. I felt quite all the emotions that we're trying to get across. However, I just not sure I understood what themes the writer was trying to get at, and I didn't understand. Well, I felt the title, first of all, is very misleading, because although yes, this sort of the story stems off from the wife wanting to become a vegetarian, but that wasn't really the main crux, I don't think, of what was going on. And also, she wasn't a vegetarian because she stopped eating, well, everything, but dairy and things like that as well. So surely she was a vegan. I was a bit confused by that bit. Anyway, let me tell you what this is about. It's set in sort of 3 sections, 3 parts. The first part is written by the husband of the woman that has decided to become a vegetarian. The second part is written by the brother-in-law, so her sister's husband. And the third part is written from the sister's point of view. And I wanted to like this. And I know a lot of people say that the themes sort of kept coming back to them, and I just wonder if maybe I'm not that type of reader. I like things to be a bit more obvious, and I don't want to have to dissect everything, which is why possibly I don't get on quite so well with poetry, or haven't found poetry to suit me yet. Yeah, it just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. So unfortunately, this just wasn't for me, and I gave it 2 stars. And then the final book that I want to talk about is another graphic novel, and that is Smile by Raina Telgemeier. And I love the front cover of this. When I was in the comic book shop, I asked the seller there if she could recommend some books to me. I was desperate for something more memoir-y, a bit Lucy Knisley, and she recommended that these books might be up my street. I really enjoy the artwork in this. Again, it's quite simple and bold, but I really just enjoyed the story behind this. Raina's telling the story of getting braces, but through this story of getting braces, which she has over a number of years, we're following her life journey as well. So we're finding out what led to her to have braces, and then we're following her journey with her braces and how that affected her thoughts about herself and her growing up and her adolescence and her friendships and growing up and becoming a woman and deciding what sort of person she wanted to be. I've really enjoyed this. I laughed out loud at one point, and I'm desperate to read more by her. I have got another one of her books which I'm hoping to pick up really soon, and there's one that I've added to my wish list, so hopefully I will be able to get that at some point. I don't know, because obviously I'm not buying books, but it's on my wish list for a future date. But I really enjoyed this, and I definitely recommend it if you like the look of the artwork and you want something that's quite cute. And in fact, I think that these are aimed at younger readers originally. If you know someone that's having to get braces, or someone that's got braces and is a little bit miserable about it, this book's really good, because it just shows you that you're not alone, and that you're not the only person out there that's gone through this or struggles with it, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that other things are just as important. So yeah, I really recommend this one, and as I say, 4 stars. So that's what I've read this week. I'm currently reading a few things, and I will check in with you next week for another tally on how I'm getting on with Shelf Slam 2017. Still got a fair way to go to get my 12 books. I'd really like the 12 books to be the ones off my TBR for Shelf Slam 2017. However, if I can read 12 books in the month, I'd probably be happy with that too. So we'll see how I get on. But yes, I'm having a good time in January so far, and I've read a few good things, a few disappointing things, but I'm definitely pleased to have finally got to some of these things that are actually off my shelf. So yay! Anyway, let me know what you've been reading. Have you read any of these? Do your thoughts differ, or do you feel the same as me about The Vegetarian? Let me know. Let's talk in the comments down below. Bye for now, BookTube.